All right, so at the Alamo Bowl today, we need to talk about one of the bowl games that I talked about earlier this week that is incredibly intriguing because of the status of each teams. Oregon facing a ton of uncertainty right now because of a lot of depletion in the roster department. Both teams facing the loss of a head coach, and I think all of that comes together to form a really intriguing bowl game that we have to talk about. But before we do, as always, y'all know the drill. I want to hear from you. And given how much talk we've heard around Caleb Williams in the past few days, do you believe Caleb Williams will have a huge day? And let me know what you're thinking. And if you're new to the channel, be sure to subscribe. Hit that bell notification. I do constant college football content. You don't want to miss any of it. And if you enjoyed the content, be sure to like and comment down below. But with that being said, let's hop right into this because this is going to be short and sweet. Oregon interim coach Brian McClendon has called Caleb Williams what he believes the best playmaker in football, and that is high praise. But it's high praise for an individual who has been a dangerous weapon for the Oklahoma offense. Remember, Caleb Williams has the ability to affect the game in multiple different ways. Whether it's with his arm or his legs, they can get him going and really keep a defense honest. When you mix that ability with the running backs Oklahoma has in both Kennedy Brooks, who's had a phenomenal season, and Eric Gray, who has the ability to really hurt a defense out the backfield in the receiving capacity, you can see how a defense would really have to keep on their P's and Q's and stay home and disciplined. The situation becomes almost more dire when you look at the receiving weapons that Oklahoma has at its display. When you have all of those five-star wide receivers and that talent at quarterback and running back, the defense is going to have to keep a lot of things in front of them and hopefully not let any of these playmakers get behind them because that could be a really bad thing. Especially when you look, and when we talked earlier this week before we knew how many people would be out for Oregon already had a lot of depth issues at the wide receiver department, but more specifically the cornerback department. And that's where I think Oregon could be in a lot of trouble. One cornerback to the draft, one cornerback not being there to the transfer portal. And I think when you look at all of that, that's when you get the picture painted that Oregon is going to have to play a near perfect game today. On the flip side, Oklahoma's defense is being led by Brian Odom. And Oklahoma's defense is coming into this game with a lot to prove, especially for a lot of the playmakers they have up front. Oklahoma has got a ton of talent on the defensive front, but getting to the quarterback is going to be paramount in this game. You know, we always talk about it. Football begins and ends at the line of scrimmage, and if you do not win that battle, it's going to be very tough to win the football game, no matter how good you play in every other capacity. I point you that because as an Alabama fan watching the Iron Bowl, it was awesome to see what Bryce Young did, but you got to see firsthand how difficult it was if your offensive line doesn't give you the protection you need. Oklahoma's offensive line has been up and down, but the past few weeks they've been much better as far as consistency standpoint. Can they continue that today? The good news for the Oklahoma offensive line is there is no Kayvon Thibodeau. The bad news for the Oregon offensive line is even though Oklahoma doesn't have Nick Bonito, even though they don't have Isaiah Thomas, even though they don't have Winfrey, they still have a lot of playmakers on that defensive front. And certainly Oregon does too, but there are individuals such as Jalen Redmond and Clayton Smith that I think we need to keep an eye on. Not to mention David Agwebu, who already has experience in that defense as a linebacker. When you look at everything, I think Oklahoma has a distinct advantage in this game. Not only because they're not currently dealing with the roster issues that Oregon is, but I think they just have much more continuity at key positions. Oregon is thin at the wide receiver department. Oregon is thin at the cornerback department, and that was even before we heard of the troubles they would have on their roster for this game. When you look at all of that, I think Oklahoma holds a distinct advantage, and personally, I think Oklahoma takes this game. But with that, I'm very interested in hearing from you. Let me know who you think wins this game, and do you believe Caleb Williams will have a big performance because he has been receiving high praise? That's it. See ya.